I love holiday weeks. Everything is always focused on the NFL. What's good, everybody? Welcome into our Week 12 NFL Mega Preview. This is The Early Edge. We are powered, as always, by the almighty SportsLine, the best value in all sports betting, and it is not close. All of the odds here on The Early Edge provided by our incredible partners, the king of all sportsbooks, BetMGM. Now, there are no more bye weeks. All 32 teams in action this week. 3 games on Thanksgiving Day. First ever game on Black Friday, the Jets and the Dolphins, and a full slate on Sunday, and, of course, Monday Night Football. So, with all that being said, you've taken the time on a Tuesday to watch us live. If you're watching us on demand, we welcome you also. We have 2 of the best minds in the business right here at SportsLine at your disposal. Bring him in right now. Thank you, Snake. The stoic one, RJ White, is here. The maestro, Larry Hartstein, is here. Before we get started on this full slate quickly, we've got a lot going on. RJ, what did you make last night of the Chiefs? Once again, can't score in the second half. The Super Bowl rematch won by the Eagles, sir.
Yeah, it was ugly for the Chiefs. I mean, they dominated for 2.5 quarters there. And, Eagles got an early touchdown, but it was completely all Chiefs. And then they let that one touchdown go by. As soon as I said, man, the Chiefs are really dominating this game, they let a big run go by, and then that turned into a touchdown drive. And then Travis Kelce fumbles on the 10. At that point, you feel like this is just not going to go their way the rest of this game. So I don't know that it's indicative of too much with the Chiefs. They're still an elite team, obviously, but I did flip-flop them with the Eagles in my power ratings. I had some questions about the Eagles coming into the week. Their defense had not been playing well. Jalen Hurts managing his injury. It took them a while to get going, but they looked fine. Defense, very strong performance by the defense. So I'm comfortable putting them up with the 49ers tied for first in my power ratings at this point.
And they have a 2-game lead, Maestro, over the 49ers right now as the top team in the NFC. What are your thoughts about last night?
I take issue with the description that the Eagles defense played well. It was those passes that hit the Chiefs receivers right in the hands that were the problem for Kansas City last night. I mean, that was absolutely embarrassing. We saw it in week 1 when they lost to the Lions with Kadarius Toney dropping like 6 million passes, and then MVS drops that one. And then even on 4th and 25, it was a perfect throw that could have converted. So to me, that's the question. If the Chiefs fix that, clean that up somehow, they'll be fine.
Yeah, they've got to work on that wide receiver room a lot. But Patrick, give him credit. He hasn't thrown anybody under the bus yet, not even last night after the game. He kept professional, said, hey, I threw an interception in the end zone too. So that's what a leader does. All right, gentlemen, we got 16 games to get through, and we've got to keep it moving. We do it all in less than 60 minutes here at the Early Edge. So grab your paper, grab your pencil, the best information you will ever get right here. So first game on Thursday, it's always the Detroit Lions, but who are they playing? Well, the Green Bay Packers coming to town. The Lions coming off a very, very emotional win. Down 12, less than 5 minutes to go. They win by 5. They still almost cover. It was miraculous, but now they're favored by 7.5. The total is 47. So, RJ, let's start with you because this is one of your best bets for the week in a different way. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think Detroit is fine to play at 7.5. I think the line should be higher, probably even 10. But it's just a perfect number to tease right here with where it is. So I'm teasing Detroit down to -1.5. They survived an uncharacteristically poor game from Jared Goff. It's the first time he's had multiple picks all season. Green Bay's defense, 26 in interception rate. So I don't know that that's going to be a big issue here. They're also 24th in yards per rush. They just give up 6.4 yards per play to the Chargers. I don't know how they get any stops here. With Aaron Jones out and A.J. Dillon ineffective in their run game, the game rests for the Packers and Jordan Love's hands on the road. I don't know if that's where you want it. I'm not very confident in him against a good defense with a great defensive line here. Detroit won by 14 in the first meeting and dominated the stats in that game in Green Bay in week 4. The line was -2 there, and they won pretty easily running away. These teams both have great home field advantages. So when you flip the line, I think this market is telling you that they're about the same as they were in week 4, and I completely disagree with that. I think we're lower on the Packers here, and the Lions have proven themselves. So I think this line should be higher. I think you can lay it, but I'm throwing it in teaser, making it the first leg of my teaser at -1.5.
I had the Lions in 3 different teasers at the number 2 on Sunday. So obviously I was really sweating it till the end of the game when they won by 5. But now as we look at the Green Bay Packers side too, Maestro, until a team gets to 7 losses, I always say they're still in the discussion for the playoffs. Well, the Packers are 4-6. Where do they fall for you right now?
Well, there's some optimism about the way Jordan Love has played the past 3 games and some of those young receivers coming along. But I want to halt the brakes on that because Aaron Jones is out for this game, and he makes all the difference to that offense, even without his production. Just the attention that he draws. When Jaden Reed scored on that running play was because of Aaron Jones drawing attention away. So without Aaron Jones, you can look at the splits and you look at EPA per play. It is drastic what a different offense is. So let's see if Jordan Love can keep it up without Aaron Jones. The one thing I really love in this game is David Montgomery to score a touchdown. Got this up on the site at Caesars at -143, but at BetMGM, I'm seeing it's already 190, which I wouldn't play it there. But this guy scored 8 touchdowns in 7 games already. He had 3 touchdowns against these same Packers in the first matchup, and they like to give it to him when they get in the red zone, averaging a career high in yards per carry. I think they're going to run all over the Packers. Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown, also not a bad play. He has 4 TDs in the last 3 games.
Yeah, and let's not sleep on the Lions. They're 8-2. Everybody's talking about, the 49ers, can they catch the Eagles for the number 1 seed? Well, the Lions are closer to them than the 49ers are right now. Do not sleep on Detroit. Now, game number 2 on Thanksgiving Day, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, it's always the Dallas Cowboys. But who's coming to town? Well, it's going to be the Washington Commanders. The Cowboys, for the 3rd straight week, a double-digit favorite. And they continue to play good football. The total 48.5. So, RJ, let's start with you. Can the Cowboys cover another big-time spread?
I think it's possible. Washington's offense coming off a horrendous game, 6 turnovers. Now they face an elite Dallas defense that's 1st in interception rate and 2nd in sack rate. The Washington defense got 9 sacks. Of course, a lot of that was playing Tommy DeVito, but they caused just 8 incomplete passes aside from that, despite playing that game at home. He carved them up. Pardon the Thanksgiving, word there, but I think that they're going to be in trouble in this matchup here against Dallas. Dallas dominated Carolina, but was in danger of not covering prior to the 4th quarter. And it's hard to backdoor cover once they get outside the number here. And they're going to stack up points against this awful defense. And if Washington isn't playing from ahead, I think they're toast in this game. So I would lean to Dallas. I definitely would look to CeeDee Lamb overs. I think his number is 88.5 for receiving yards. He might beat that by 100 in this matchup. He has had 4 straight over 100 prior to this week, and he's going to dominate this defense.
How can you not just say that Washington is a fraud, Maestro, when you lose to the Giants like that? Frauds.
Oh, totally. And they traded away 2 of their best players a couple weeks ago. So it's really not a surprise to see them falling apart. However, I do want to warn you that this is where Ron Rivera's teams typically show up. Not in a favorite role against the Giants, but look what they were. They were big dogs at Seattle. They almost won that game 29-26. Now, this is a much tougher test in Dallas, but Sam Howell and that passing offense, I believe, can potentially get through the back door, which is why I am not in any hurry to lay it with the Cowboys. But I do agree with RJ White that CeeDee Lamb is absolutely going to feast in this matchup. I was looking at rushing receiving over 92.5 because he does get used on some end arounds in addition to all the receiving yardage, but I think he'll clear it in receiving only.
And it's a nice thing about today. Normally we do this show every single Tuesday and props aren't necessarily up. Because of the 3 games on Thursday, now you can get them a little bit early. Listen to my guys. All right, game number 3 on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. Now, this was supposed to be a matchup of first-place teams until Seattle blew it to the Rams late on Sunday. So now the Rams all alone in first place, and they are favored by 6.5, going on the road to a very, very tough environment at night to play in Seattle. The total sitting at 43. So, RJ, did you see enough from the 49ers the last couple of weeks to forget about that 3-game slide?
Yeah, because they got their MVP back, Trent Williams. And once he's at left tackle, he opens up the passing game for Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy seems like he can do no wrong throwing the ball when he's got that type of protection, especially when Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle are all in there. The line initially was saying Geno probably wouldn't play. It got up to 7. Then Pete Carroll came out and said, actually, it looks like he's on track to play. It kind of pointed in that direction. So I think we consider him likely to play here. Market hasn't really come down enough in this game for me. I would make this line 4 if it's Geno, and if it's not Geno, I'd put it on the other side of 7 because Drew Lock did not look good. I didn't have the gap between those two as being that big heading into the season, but he was not great in that game in relief there. So Like the first Seattle Rams game, Seattle's offense went completely in the tank after a strong start. This past week, they need to start sustaining drives here, and that San Francisco offense looks unstoppable with everyone healthy. The Seattle defense stepped up against the Rams, but they're 29th on third down, 28th in red zone. It's going to be tough for them to keep the scoring down here. They need a guy that can get that backdoor cover like Geno can. So I would lean to Seattle if we know Geno is in, but right now it's just a stay away.
So leaning to Seattle for RJ, but if the 49ers jump out to an early lead, Maestro, they've shown that they are the masters of just slowing the second half down to a crawl and just bleeding this clock. They just did it this past week, and they looked amazing. Your thoughts?
Yeah, they've looked great out of the bye, 2-0, 2 covers. They swept the Seahawks 3 times last season, 89-43. And Brock Purdy, if you remember, went on the road to Seattle and beat them 21-13. I think it was his first road start, and he acquitted himself very well. He's coming off a perfect game last week against Tampa Bay. They lost their all-pro safety, Hufanga. That is a big, big loss for the Niners. But the rookie they got out of Penn State comes in, breaks up a couple of potential touchdowns, makes an interception, so they should be fine there. And yeah, a healthy Geno, maybe it's -4, -4.5, but Geno playing with a potentially troublesome elbow. I really like the 49ers in this spot. And if it's Drew Lock, forget it. This is going to be a blowout.
This is why I love doing the show, because I'm the king of overreaction until I come and do it with you guys. I go, okay, maybe it shouldn't be 18 points, because that's how I think in my head that San Francisco should be favored by 1 million points. All right, you're watching the Early Edge, Week 12 NFL Mega Preview. We just went through our 3 Thanksgiving Day games. Now, in years past, we would say let's go to Sunday now, but not this year. No, this year there's a Black Friday game. So get up, go out early, get all your shopping done, then come home. And you got the Dolphins in the shadows of New York City, taking on the New York Jets, brand new quarterback under center this week. 3 p.m. Eastern, special start time. You see the number 10, the total is 41. So, RJ, of course, I'll start with you. First, the Dolphins coming into New York, the way that they've been playing, kind of stumbling a little bit on offense. Is this the get-right spot?
It could be, hopefully for the Jets, they get their dinner in early on Thanksgiving. They can get in line somewhere for a Black Friday sale and get themselves a quarterback on discount, because I don't know that Tim Boyle is going to make much of a difference. His numbers were worse than Zach Wilson in that game last week. So I don't think the QB change matters. Then again, I don't think you can consider him much worse than Zach Wilson that we've seen the last few weeks. So I don't know why this line jumped up to 10 for the Dolphins. I think at that number, I'm kind of looking toward the Jets. I still think the line should be around 7.5 or 8. So if there's any value on this line, it's with the Jets. It's with the under. This Jets offense is terrible. Miami's offense is first in yards per play, but the Jets do have a good defense when they don't completely give up, because the offense can't do anything like they did in that second half against the Bills there. It's hard to give full effort in that situation. So Miami's defense is strong against the run. Jets have averaged less than 10 points a game since the bye. I can't expect them to get to 17 here. And the Dolphins, like you said, stumbling a little bit. They're playing a good defense on the road here. I don't know that this game gets through the 41 on this weird Friday slate at 3 p.m., kind of weird time for them. So I would take this game under first, and then aside from that, maybe look to the Jets at 10. If it gets to 10.5, I might put the Jets in as a pick.
Weird is a great word for what this is, because Maestro, when we talk about the Jets, and I thought RJ just said it really well, how do they get to 17 points? When I watch this team play, it is hard. It's hard as a football fan to watch this team play. Is there any universe where they do get to 17 in your mind?
I don't see it happening. I agree with RJ on the under, because this Dolphins defense absolutely loaded with talent, and finally coming into, it's finally coming to fruition under Vic Fangio. They have so many playmakers on this defense, and we didn't see it the first half of the season, but now they are really hitting their groove. So yeah, I don't see the Jets getting to 17. I don't think the Dolphins are going to be super explosive unless the Jets totally quit, and they're still professionals. And I think every game, at least for the first half, they're going to be giving max effort, and then it just gets deflating when you see your offense going 3 and out. I can't believe Trevor Siemian couldn't start this game and give the Jets a better chance.
100% correct. If I'm one of those players, especially on defense in that locker room, I am furious. And at some point, it's going to boil over. I just don't know when that's going to be. Now, you asked the question, 4 games so far. We still have 12 more to go. But where are you going to make these bets? Well, I can tell you that thousands of you have signed up already, and we can't appreciate it enough. New BetMGM customers, though, can sign up today and get $200 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you will receive $200 instantly in bonus bets. regardless of your wager's outcome, with bonus code EDGE200. That is bonus code EDGE200. All right, we are just about set for the 1 o'clock games on Sunday, but you know me and the crew. We are everywhere. In fact, if you're watching us live later tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be hosting right here.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Very interesting that I got the call today, gentlemen, to host tonight. Now, everybody else is taking vacation. Not the Early Edge crew, baby. Not the Early Edge. Emery, Proppy, Sia. They're all joining me tonight from 6 to 7 o'clock Eastern time. All right, back to our rundown. You're watching the Early Edge. We do this every single week live at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you for joining us. Joe, by the way, says, sorry I'm late. This is one of the best live streams going for NFL capping. I disagree. This is the best live stream going for NFL capping. But thank you for being here, Joe. We appreciate it. Saints, Falcons, a battle in the NFC South. The Saints, they've been the class of this division so far. The Falcons, very hit or miss, mostly miss. Total is 42. RJ, your thoughts on this basically pick-em game?
Yeah, Saints -1 in some spots, which kind of surprised me because they are not playing that well. They're a very good team to me. I know the Atlanta offense was awful with Heineke before the bye. At least Desmond Ridder, going back to him, he's had some solid games when he's not turning the ball over. That could be a problem here. The Saints defense is 4th in interception rate, 7th in yards per pass, but they will be missing Marcus Lattimore in this game, likely out with a high ankle sprain. That's a big deal because he's been playing very well. And also Michael Thomas likely out in this game. Derek Carr dealing with a concussion. He'll probably be back. I don't know if that's a positive. I think I might want Jameis Winston in there, throwing deep balls there. But New Orleans offense, 30th in yards per rush. Atlanta's defense, solid across the board, 8th in yards per play, 4th on third down, 6th in the red zone, against what I think is a kind of a limited offense here. I think that the Atlanta defense is going to play well, and Atlanta actually ranks slightly higher than New Orleans in yards per play on both offense and defense. So they might just be the better team. They are at home, so I don't know how you can make them an underdog in this game. I would lean to Atlanta catching the 1 point.
And if Atlanta wins remarkably, they would be 5-6, and Maestro tied for first place in the NFC South. Do you see a scenario where that could happen?
I mean, this is a team that's lost back-to-back weeks to the Titans, the Vikings, and the Cardinals. And since they lost their heart and soul, Grady Jarrett, it has not been the same defense that did play well early in the season. And yeah, Desmond Ridder has been good at home. Before he got benched, he was a much better quarterback at home. So I guess with RJ, I would also lean towards the Falcons because of the Saints injuries. But honestly, don't know what to do with this one.
And what have we learned over the years, ladies and gentlemen, since the Early Edge started? You don't have to bet on every game. I know it feels like you do, but you don't. And this is one of those games. Just pass it by. You don't have to watch it on League Pass. None of that. Sunday NFL Ticket. None of that. Just pass it by. Maybe this next game too. I don't know. But the Steelers decided this week something they never do. I think it was like 1940 or something the last time they fired a coach in season. But that's exactly what they did this week. The Steelers are favored by 1, though, because now the Bengals are going to go the rest of the way without Joe Burrow. Devastating season-ending injury to his wrist. That's even worse. It's not an ACL. It's your wrist. That stinks. So, RJ, let's go to you. Do the Steelers now have the advantage since Joe Burrow is out?
Since Joe Burrow and Matt Canada are out, they finally did what everybody wanted them to do and blame Canada. And I think it might work here because the Cincinnati defense looks solid for a stretch, but they're 400-plus yards allowed in 5 of their 10 games now, 31st in yards per play and yards per rush. They're just not a good defense at all. So Pittsburgh's offense can't pass, but maybe the new offense coordinator can work out some of that. They are 12th in yards per rush, and Jaylen Warren can at least create plays with his legs. In that game last week, they had just 3.1 yards per play outside of his long run. But, of course, that was against an elite defense, and they will not be facing one this week. Cincinnati's offense already 25th in yards per play on the year with Burrow playing the whole year. But they did look lost early in the year when he was still recovering. If you remember, they couldn't move the ball consistently at all. And I think even a less than 100% Joe Burrow is better than Jake Browning. With Browning, we just can't expect him to be effective moving the ball, even against what's been a mediocre Pittsburgh defense in yards per play. I know they have the elite talent at pass rusher, but they haven't played that well. Their defense has been fourth in red zone success rate, though, and just under 16 points per game allowed in the last 6. So that's going to be the difference here. Pittsburgh's defense, I think, will carry this game. I would lean Pittsburgh -1. It feels like there should be value on the Bengals at this number because the Steelers aren't playing well, but I have to lean with the Pittsburgh Steelers here.
If I'm Jamar Chase, if I'm any of those receivers, if I'm Joe Mixon, I'm like, what just happened to our season? And Maestro, when you look at the total, I had to look 3 times. 34.5. Are you serious right now? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are fresh off a 13-10 game, and if any team can keep this game under, it's the Steelers. But the Bengals, I think Jake Browning, yeah, I know he's nowhere near Joe Burrow at all, but having the extra days from that Thursday night to take all the first-team reps, to know you're going in, I mean, he's just been watching on the sideline. Then he gets thrown in against the Ravens, obviously a terrible spot to go in. You know, he wasn't good, but he wasn't an absolute disaster. So I think that he is going to play better. And I just cannot get behind this Steelers team right now that continues to get outplayed in the stats every single week of the season.
It's really, it's historic. It's historic what they're doing at 6-4 to never outgain one opponent, not one, this entire season. Now, normally, guys, when we get to week 13, 14, we start to see the games where you absolutely can't bet them. I feel like we're starting this week because we now have a second one that I don't know if we can bet it or would want to. Panthers and the Titans. Tennessee, yeah, Will Levis is the quarterback, but after that first week, RJ, you told us, be very careful. Because when you start to game plan for these rookie quarterbacks, then they start to struggle. That's exactly what's happened. So the Titans somehow are favored by 3.5 over this Panthers team. The total also very low at 36.5. RJ.
Yeah, the way you play this game is to find a 37 and play the under because I don't see these teams scoring at all. Carolina's defense allowed just 4.6 yards per play against Dallas despite the final score. They've actually been playing very well over the last 4 games since the bye, but it's been shadowed by how bad the offense is. Offense is now 32nd in yards per play. The pass offense is also 32nd, and that's in a league where the New York Jets exist. The Jets have averaged a little over 5 yards per pass. The Carolina Panthers have averaged 4.61. They're not just worse than the Jets. They're a decent amount worse. So I don't think you can expect any success through the air, even against the Tennessee Titans defense that isn't great against the pass. And this defense is 8th in yards per rush. So even though they can't generate interceptions, any competent pass offense should light them up. Carolina has proven they are not a competent pass offense. So I think Tennessee can cover this game, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of points. Their offense struggled on the road the last 3 games, but I'm not counting on a big improvement in what's becoming a growingly tough matchup here. So I think this game is going to end in the 13-10, 17-13 type range. So find a 37, play the under, and then don't watch 1 second of it.
Yeah, we use words like could, can, might. You never know with 2 bad football teams. So would you wait for 37, Maestro, and also tag that under?
I would lean under for sure, but I like the Titans in this spot. I'm just waiting because I'm hoping we will get a 3. This is a team that has been horrible on the road, but have been much more competent at home. I think Will Levis at home, he showed what he could do against the Falcons, and I think he'll have a decent game against the Panthers. And RJ said it, this is a historically bad offense right now. It's really embarrassing, and they don't threaten you downfield. They don't get separation. They don't really run the ball well. There's nothing they do well, and the Titans still have a lot of good playmakers on that defensive front that I think are going to create those turnovers, those mistakes that Bryce Young has been committing week after week. The Panthers are just lost. So I'm going to look to play the Titans if I can get 3 or less.
All right, so very, very important. You know the numbers 3, 7, 10, very important in the world of NFL betting. All right, the next game, and again, don't sleep. If you're in the NFC South, you got a shot. You got yourselves a shot, especially if you're the Bucs. They're 4-6, 1 game back. They didn't get embarrassed by San Francisco. They just turned the ball over at bad times. So they're going to Indianapolis -2.5. So Maestro, let me start with you on this one because if people are SportsLine members, then they get your picks the second that you post them. And you posted this number when it was what?
Yeah, 1.5. This was the one I was waiting for with the Colts coming off the bye, the Bucs with a terrible spot. Not only were they in San Francisco, which is always a very physical game, and there's been trends where the week after you play the Niners is not a good week for you either, but they lose Levante David, they lose Jamel Dean, they lose Carlton Davis. Those are 3 studs on their defense. We'll see if any of them are able to come back this week. This is their 4th road game in 5 weeks. So this just a ridiculous spot with the extra rest for the Colts. So I just love the spot for the Colts. Gardner Minshew hasn't been good, but against this Bucs pass defense, he is going to have a lot of success. Josh Downs, who's a very exciting rookie, should be healthier coming out of the bye. So I took the Colts at 1.5. I'd still like them less than a field goal.
I think coach is frozen up here. Maybe he'll be back in a second. But
I thought he was taking notes, but yeah, go ahead.
It looked like he was taking notes there. Yeah, I can't lay points with Indy. I don't know if I want to play the Bucs. I would lean that way, but I can't lay points with Indy. Despite Jonathan Taylor emerging, their rush game has struggled in the last 2. Facing a tough matchup here, that's going to put the game on Gardner Minshew. Like you said, he was not good. Maybe he can exploit this easy matchup here with these injuries. So we'll see if that can happen. My concern here is Tampa Bay has played a very tough schedule. You know, you'd think playing in that division that all these teams get to play easy schedules. They lost to Philly and Detroit at home. That's understandable. Those are 2 very good teams. They went to San Francisco and Buffalo, lost to both those games, 2 very good teams. And they had 2 close losses to Atlanta and Houston, which Houston, I think, is a pretty good team. Atlanta, we're kind of questionable about. And so these losses that they're taking are just these very good teams that I don't think the Colts are in, even Atlanta's realm in terms of tiers of teams here. So this quality opponent is among the worst they faced. I think they're a little undervalued in the market because of all these tough teams they face. So I think this line should be a tick lower. I'm not rushing to take Tampa, but if I had to play something in this game, it would be Tampa.
The one thing Coach, welcome back. I can't hear you, though.
Can you hear me now?
I gotcha.
Hear me now.
Yeah.
My goodness. I tell you what, this crazy gated community, apparently everybody's on the Wi-Fi today. But do you have something, though, Larry?
Well, the Colts defense has been a problem all season, but the last 2 games, now you can throw it out because it was against the Patriots and the Texans. They've played well, though. I think they've given up 19 points. Or the Patriots and the Panthers, 19 points in the last 2 games. I know terrible offenses, but maybe we're seeing a little bit of improvement from the Colts secondary.
Did you just say the Patriots and bad or poor in the same sentence? Is one of those words. Well, you must have been thinking about our next game because our next game is awful. How do we get so many bad matchups the same exact week? I'm not even going to scold the chat anymore for complaining about these matchups. I'm not going to do it. You guys can complain all you want. Patriots favored by 3 over the juggernaut that is the New York Giants, coming out the big win over Washington. What are we doing, RJ? And the total, I thought 34.5 was low. We're now looking at 33.5. What are we doing? Please enlighten me.
Well, I can't call the matchup bad if Tommy DeVito is involved. That guy's pretty entertaining. I mean, if he's not getting sacked, he is, carving up the Washington defense. Like I said earlier, it was actually pretty interesting. He played better than you would expect for an undrafted free agent. I do know the game before when he came in, he had off that injury, he had like 2 interceptions in his first 3 passes, and then played pretty decently after that. So, I'm not taking this guy as a complete, worst starting quarterback in the league for sure this week. I think he might be better than guys like Tim Boyle and Jake Browning. So we'll have to see that. They did show life. It was thanks to playing that horrendous defense. New England's defense 31st in sack rate, so maybe he'll have a little more time here to throw, and he can have some success. I know the defense for New England also 7th in yards per play overall, so maybe not a lot of success, but at least there's a little optimism now that the Giants can score some points and hang in this game. And I don't think there's any chance New England's fixed the offense during the bye. We don't even know if they're going to start at quarterback. They're kind of saying they're acting like it could be either guy. I'm not sure either one helps. Maybe a healthier offensive line helps them, but I don't think the Patriots, who are one of the league's worst teams, just like the Giants, should be laying 3 points on the road against anyone, even this team. So I would play the Giants if anything.
Jeff in the chat asked a very, very serious question. Is this the Drake May Bowl? Perhaps, Maestro, perhaps.
Yeah, both teams that should be incentivized to lose this game, but of course they're not going to do that. The players will give it their all, but I agree with RJ. There's no way a team as bad as the Patriots should lay a field goal on the road. The Giants, they're playing with house money. There's obviously zero expected of DeVito and of this team right now, so they can play loose. Where Bill Belichick, this is like an ignominious end to his tenure in New England.
I heard somebody on a radio show this morning talking about if the Chargers opening or the Chargers head coaching spot is open, they're like, would Bill Belichick want to go there? Would Jim Harbaugh? I'm like, I had to turn off the show. I was like, what are we talking about here? There's no way they're bringing Bill Belichick to LA to coach the Chargers if it's open. Or maybe I'm crazy. Now, if I would have told you this next statement 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, you would have called me crazy. But this is where we're at. A battle for first place in the AFC South. The Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud. I just got a nice little plus 2,400 ticket for him to win the MVP. Because he just might. The Jags are favored by 1.5, but don't look now. The Texans are 6-4, just one game back of the Jags. The total at 48.5 because the Houston Texans have turned into an over team. So this is the other leg of your teaser, RJ. Which way are you going?
We're teasing Houston up to plus 7.5. Great offense here. We also got in on this over at 46.5 before it moved up. Houston knows how to score points. Jacksonville did bounce back as expected, but their defense gave up some big plays against Tennessee. That is not a good precursor for facing this Houston offense with Tank Dell and all these guys they can have downfield. We'll see if they get Noah Brown back as well for this game to make them even harder to defend. Jacksonville's defense now 26th in yards per play and much worse versus the pass. They are 29th in sack rate, so I expect a lot of explosive plays here from Houston. Stroud had his first awful turnover game last week, and he still managed to lead a 6.3 yards per play attack and get the win in that game anyway. This is a very good team. If Jacksonville wins this game, division race likely over. If Houston wins, they will have the tiebreaker for sweeping the Jags. It's going to be a kitchen sink game where you throw everything you can. And in that situation, I want a guy that's as strong an offensive coordinator as Bobby Slowick to draw up some plays here to get a win here. So I think the Texans should win this game. Definitely tease them up to plus 7.5. You talk about CJ Stroud bets. I got a 75-1 Texans to win the Super Bowl bet. Really starting to look like the Cincinnati Bengals team from 2 years ago that got into the wild card game and behind their elite quarterback that was starting to emerge, beat some teams on the road that and probably shocked some people, and all of a sudden found themselves within a field goal of tying the Super Bowl and maybe winning the Super Bowl over the Rams.
Nobody is laughing at that 75-1 ticket. Not that anybody was, but right now this team is trending, and they're so much fun to watch, Larry. This is why we love the NFL. Teams like this, you see all the locker room video. They're all in. They love C.J. Stroud. He's become their leader as a rookie. This team is trending in the right direction.
They are. This is going to be a fun game, maybe the most fun game of the slate, and I like the over, too. I liked it a lot better, 48 or less, but still lean that way because I don't think either passing offense is going to be slowed down. The Texans put up 21 points. They went up and down the field and had 3 critical interceptions, so they're going to be fine against this Jags pass defense. And Trevor Lawrence, that was a little bit of the game they needed to turn around their offense. Their offense has been the problem all season. They're still in great shape at 7-3, and now I think that offense is going to start to click, especially against a very bad Texans pass defense.
Edwin in the chat agrees with you. He says, Coach, I love this over also. I think all of us are trending to the over. Whew, I love watching the Texans play. Now, we still have 6 more games to get to, but as you know, here at CBS, we love all the sports. And on Paramount Plus, you know what we're doing with the Champions League coming up.
Join us for Match Day 5 in Miami.
Good to have you with us.
All the way from England, baby! And go inside the Champions League with the most entertaining team in the game. Champions League today. Destination Miami. November 28th and 29th. Streaming on Paramount Plus.
Oh, they have so many good things of content on Paramount Plus, but maybe not as good as this one. 2 really good defenses at 4 or 5 Eastern on Sunday. Now, somehow the Cleveland Browns, gentlemen, they lose Deshaun Watson. They have a new quarterback, 3 names, and he steps in. Not only do they win on a last-second field goal over the Steelers, but it showed that it meant something to him. He was in tears on the sideline. I love seeing players that care. So the Broncos, though, all of a sudden, Russell Wilson, he's one of the top statistical quarterbacks in the entire league. They're favored by 2.5. The total, 35. You can't make this stuff up. But RJ, you like one side in this game. Which one is it?
I love the Broncos here. I'm way off of the market in my valuation of these teams. Denver's defense continuing to play well, and that's thanks to turnovers. They have 12 turnovers in their last 3 games. They're going to have opportunities to get turnovers here against Dorian Thompson-Robinson on the road in this start. I think he's going to put the ball at risk, and Denver's going to be able to get some short fields here. Russell Wilson with a good game against a good Minnesota defense. They need to start getting touchdowns instead of field goals. They'll settle for too many field goals in that game, and so this is a tough matchup to do that against an elite Cleveland defense that's second in yards per play. They are a little vulnerable on the ground, 15th in yards per rush. They are just 24th in red zone rate, so if you can get the ball into the red zone, maybe you do pick up a touchdown or 2 here or there. But their defense allows about 10 points per game at home and 30 points per game on the road. And it's not that they've faced this massive amount of opponents on the road either. It's at Pittsburgh, Indy, Seattle, and Baltimore. Baltimore, of course, great offense. Seattle at times can be great, and the other 2 teams not that great. We talked about what Gardner Minshew can do earlier, that he had this massive game against Cleveland there. I think it's a great spot to fade them. I think that Broncos are the better team at this point, even though with that elite defense of the Browns, they're starting this rookie quarterback. They had just 3.5 yards per play against a mediocre Pittsburgh defense. Their longest play in that game was 18 yards. Denver's defense, I think, is going to handle this matchup, and their offense is going to do enough to win. I would make this game well on the other side of 3. So Denver minus 2.5 is the best bet.
I think this is a great play. An absolutely great play. The Browns could barely get to 13. And then, Larry, you look at what the Broncos have done, beating the Vikings, and before that, beating the Bills in Buffalo. I think at some point we need to stop sleeping on the Broncos.
Yeah, but no Kareem Jackson this week. And like RJ said, 12 turnovers. And can you count on 3 more turnovers every single week? This Broncos offense is doing nothing lately. They are just throwing the ball right towards the line of scrimmage. I mean, one nice play to Cortland Sutton. Other than that, they're not attacking downfield at all. The offense is basically just living on these short fields, taking field goals all the time. It probably will be enough to cover the number here against the Browns and DTR. That Browns defense, that is very striking what you said about how they've played on the road compared to how they've played at home. I don't have an explanation for that because, it's such a dominant defense at home. It should be a lot better on the road. I'm staying away right now. I'm a little worried that they're not going to generate 3 or 4 turnovers.
Yeah, it's probably a pretty good worry as well. Now, there's one more game at 4 or 5 Eastern on Sunday, and that is the Rams. They are favored by 1 against the Cardinals, who do have Kyler Murray back. The total sitting at 44.5. And you got to give L.A. and Matthew Stafford a lot of credit. They were down and out the entire game on Sunday against Seattle and somehow came back at the very end to get the job done. So, Larry, I'm going to come over to you. The Rams, what did they show you last week?
Well, they saved their season, and it's all because they have Matthew Stafford healthy, and now they've got Kyren Williams coming back, and this running back was actually a key part of the offense. They were averaging 23 points with him in the lineup, and then when he went out, they had no running game, and then obviously they lost Stafford for a game or more than a game, but he's back. He destroyed the Cardinals for 158 yards in the first matchup. I know there was no Kyler Murray, but the Cardinals just lost their best defensive player, the linebacker who had 90 tackles, and basically nobody else has even like 60 tackles. I mean, he was everything. So they're going to have a tough time stopping the Rams running game. I know Cooper Kupp may not play. I don't think it's going to matter. I think the Rams with Matthew Stafford are a very competent team. And Stafford had his highest passer rating of the year against the Cardinals and his highest yards per attempt, 9.4 yards per attempt. So I think Puka Nacua is going to just feast on this Cardinal defense.
Yeah, Puka is the new Cooper Kupp. I mean, they play exactly the same, and he's a stud as well. And when you talk about rubber meets the road, RJ, the Rams are 4-6. And we said it earlier in the show. Once you get to 7, that's when I start writing you off, but not until 7 losses. So they need this win to continue to add wins with the 6 in the loss column.
And, getting a wild card in the NFC may be very doable. Just looking around the state of the NFC, the Cowboys are going to get one. Seahawks are starting to fall off a little bit. We expect them to get one. And then the Vikings are the next team. You have to consider whether they'll keep this up with Josh Dobbs. And if not, it's going to open the door for a team like the Rams to maybe make a run here. They gutted out the win last week, just 4.5 yards per play. That Kupp injury, I think, is going to be pretty massive if he's unavailable. It just takes, one big chess piece off the board for them. Houston's offense had 6.3 yards per play against the Arizona defense after Arizona had a solid run defensively, but they'll be better at home here, especially if they don't have to worry about Kupp. My worry is they're 1-7 straight up against the Rams, including the playoffs, 1-6-1 against the spread with Kyler Murray at quarterback. The game feels winnable for the Rams, but we'll see if it is. Total dropping, lower score game probably favors Arizona, so maybe I want to lean that way, but it's just one. Like, I don't really want to play either of these teams, so I might look to the total, but probably going to be a stay away.
So all you have to do on Sunday is wait for an extra 20 minutes. Just be patient, and you'll get 2 fantastic games. I promise you. You don't have to bet on the last one. So the first one at 425, and this one becomes fascinating because when you become so good, like the Chiefs are the new Patriots from 2000 to 2018 or 19, whatever it was, but their offense is not very good because they have receivers that can't catch the football. They should have won last night, didn't, because they couldn't catch the football, but they're favored by 9. The Raiders a week ago, they were getting 14. It never got close to that number against Miami. I would lean to the Raiders on this side because the Chiefs can't cover against anybody. And with this new coaching staff, RJ, the Raiders have a newfound confidence, and they're playing pretty good football, though they did lose in Miami.
Yeah, I think that was more about Miami kind of stumbling over themselves than Vegas really doing, a ton to stay in that game. Of course, Miami had a few big injuries in that game. Tyreek left for a little bit. Devon Achane, couldn't finish the game, might be out moving forward. So we'll see if they can hang with the Chiefs here. The Chiefs, of course, on the road, they have not been playing a lot of high scoring games. So I would lean to the Raiders here. The Raiders hit some big plays in the passing game, but 3 picks sealed their fate. Defense gave up 6.2 yards per play on the loss. I don't think they can have success against elite offenses, but the question is, does Kansas City have an elite offense after what we saw last night with how the receivers are untrustable at this point? I think you have to attack this Chiefs defense on the ground, really, and Vegas can't run the ball. So I don't expect that many points from them. Chiefs offense, 17 yards per play, but they don't feel trustworthy to me at all. Unders are 9-2 in Vegas games, and recent KC games have trended under with their elite defense, and the offense is struggling a little bit. So I would look to the under here. I think it already came down a point, but even at 43, I think that's probably the way to attack this game.
And you may call me crazy, but last night, when you start to have all these storylines surrounding teams, then players start to feel the pressure. I saw for the first time, Larry, on the face of Travis Kelce, he had the drop, then he had the bad fumble inside the 10, then he had another drop. And when you're doing all this stuff and you're traveling to Argentina on your week off to see your girlfriend, and we know who that is, and then you don't perform, well, all of a sudden, they could turn on you very, very quickly. I feel like the Chiefs are starting to feel the pressure, even though they're still 7-3. This game is going to be tough. 9 points, I'm shocked it's this high.
Yeah, it's coming down. People are definitely on the Raiders, 9.5 to 9. The Chiefs did go out as similar 9-point favorites against the Raiders at the end of last season and blew them out 31 to 9. But this is a different mojo. You're right. The Raiders look like more of a competent outfit, but they're going to have to run the ball because the Chiefs are weak against the run. We saw it last night, but they're amazing against the pass. So this rookie cannot be throwing 3 picks and expect the Raiders to cover. So I think it's going to be a very conservative game plan. They've got to stick to the run and finally bust through just to stay within this number. But you're right, Coach. The Chiefs do not tend to cover these numbers, especially lately.
And let's keep in mind, unlike the NFC where the Eagles have a full 2-game advantage, all 4 division leaders on the AFC side, they have 3 losses. So that number 1 seed very much up for grabs in the AFC. None of these teams, the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Jags, or the Chiefs can afford a loss on Sunday, which brings us to the other 4:25 Eastern game, and it's your Bills, RJ, against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. So the Eagles, back-to-back weeks. I'm sure when the schedule came out, they said, what are you doing to us? Chiefs 1 week, Bills the next, but that's what they have. And the total sits at 48.5. So, RJ, this might be a rubber meets the road for your squad because you're 6-5, just battling for perhaps a wild card spot.
Yeah, you think it's bad for the Eagles. What about the Bills? They go at Eagles this week, then they have their bye, then they're at the Chiefs, and they're home against the Cowboys. I mean, it's going to be a tough run for them here. They need to get out of that stretch with 1 win at least if they want to make a playoff run here. So maybe it's this game. Defense coming off a massive day. All it needed to get right was to play an awful offense with Zach Wilson at quarterback at home. And neither of those apply this week. They're playing a very good offense on the road. The Buffalo offense, 4.5 yards per play, aside from the long Shakir touchdown, just 16 points in the first half, despite getting the ball inside Jets' 25-yard line twice. So I don't know that they had a great offensive performance in that game, despite what the scoreboard says. Philly's defense down to 12th in yards per rush after an awful game against the Chiefs. And maybe looking at that tape will give Buffalo an excuse to run more, which I think is what the head coach wants to do. And that's not great for them. They're more explosive, of course, when they throw the ball. Feature that in the past game. Philly's offense did nothing for much of Monday Night Football, finally broke through against that elite defense. Easier matchup here. Buffalo's 18th in yards per play. I have Philly a decent amount above Buffalo at the top of the league. I said they were number one in my power ratings, tied right now. And Buffalo, I don't think is anywhere near that top tier. I don't think they've solved any of their issues. I would put this line at 5 now. So my lean here is going to be to Philly. Try to get it at the number 3. I think 3s are available pretty easily, and it should only go up from there.
RJ tells us that the Bills have a difficult schedule, but Larry, if we look at the Eagles side, next week they've got the San Francisco 49ers also coming to their house. Now, this would be one of the few teams that a team would not look ahead to the 49ers. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, that's interesting because that is a big look-ahead spot with the Bills not being as impressive this season. But I think what's going to get the Eagles going is the running game. The Bills give up 4.5 yards per carry, 29th in the league. We know ever since they lost Matt Milano and Daquan Jones that they just have not been able to stop the run. And that's what the Eagles want to do, and that's what the Eagles are amazing at. So it's a perfect matchup for the Eagles to handle their business, even though, like you said, it is a look ahead.
It definitely is. And speaking of a look ahead, down the road, the Ravens, they have everything right in front of them, including the LA Chargers Sunday night, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time is the kick. Now, Baltimore, they now find themselves tied for that number 1 seed in the AFC. They're favored by 3.5, and the total is 47. And we wait every Monday, RJ, to see if it's going to be Brandon Staley in the headlines for losing his job. Hasn't happened yet, but which side do you like in this one?
I love the Ravens here. They're a best bet for me. Their offense had 6.8 yards per play in a huge primetime rivalry game. Now they're 5th in yards per play, also ranked top 4 in yards per pass, in yards per rush separately. They can beat you anyway they want to beat you. And this Chargers defense will let you score on them any way that you want to score on them. They struggle to stop Jordan Love. They're now 31st in yards per play. They've allowed 475 plus yards in 4 of their 10 games. So good offenses should be able to roll all over this defense. The Chargers offense has kept them in games. Baltimore's defense is first in yards per play and yards per pass. It's going to be tough to have success against that unit. Chargers offense also doesn't have any receiving threats really beyond Keenan Allen. And I think Baltimore's defense can scheme to limit him a little bit, contain him, limit the scoring on the Chargers side. Baltimore is definitely among the elite. I don't quite have him at the top of the power ratings, although I probably should right now. Chargers, I think you give him an average score at best. I have them slightly below average. They don't really have any home field advantage playing in LA and then, not having a ton of home fans there. This line needs to be at least Baltimore 6 for me. It looks like it's trending the other direction, was 4, coming down to 3.5. You might even be able to get 3s. If you think you're going to get a 3, wait and definitely take that 3. But at 3.5, I still love Baltimore's game should be a lot higher.
This is supposed to be the year for the Chargers, RJ and Larry. And Larry, when you look at the Chargers going to Green Bay, losing by 3, only scoring 20, and then you've got Austin Eckler taking all the blame after the game because he doesn't want it to be on everybody else. Maybe the Chargers just aren't as good as we thought they were. Your thoughts?
I think it'd be shocking to see him get fired after a loss to the Ravens, who are a Super Bowl contender. He should have gotten fired this week. Or maybe you could say that players like Quentin Johnston shouldn't drop wide open, perfectly thrown balls down the sideline. Or Keenan Allen, the superstar, dropping a couple of perfect passes, and Austin Eckler fumbling, and on and on and on every single week. But RJ, isn't it interesting? You laid out every matchup advantage for the Ravens, even without Mark Andrews. They should go in and dominate. They should score at will, move the ball up and down at will, and yet the money is coming in on the Chargers. I think because there's such a laughing stock that people think this is the absolute market low on the Chargers. If you look back a few weeks ago against the Cowboys were laying less than a field goal against these same Chargers in LA.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, final game on Thanksgiving weekend. Monday night, and it's a battle in the NFC North. It is the Bears who just blew it against Detroit. You're up 12, less than 5 minutes to go. You got to be able to close that game out. You got it. because then you look silly if you're Justin Fields doing the dance and then you lose the game after you do the first down thing. Not a good look, but they now go to Minnesota. The Vikings, they had their 5-game winning streak snapped because of the Denver Broncos. So they're favored by 3.5. The total is 43. Larry, let me come over to you. Were you inspired in any way by how Chicago played for the first 55 minutes against Detroit?
Very inspired offensively, especially with the way Justin Fields was running and what they did to Jared Goff. That defense has been trending in the right direction for several weeks now, and the addition of Montez Sweat up front has just made them even better. They're totally healthy. The last 4 minutes, they do what the Bears do. They just collapse. But this is, to me, this line is way overinflated on a Minnesota team that has covered 6 straight, could get Justin Jefferson back, but to lay over a field goal against a very good Bears defense, now with Justin Fields totally healthy on a fast track where I think he's going to run wild. I love the Bears in this spot. They've been under the radar because of how poorly they started.
No doubt about it. So, with Justin Fields playing pretty good on Sunday, RJ, a lot of people in the chat are also wondering about this game because you don't know where to fall. So Larry loves the Bears getting the points. The under has also come in a lot of Monday night games. Where are you headed here with your lean?
Yeah, I think the line is about right. My power ratings would make it 4, but I do have a little bit of an aggressive upgrade on the Vikings because I do think that they've proven that they're an average team. So I wanted to get them that 0 rating, and I don't think the Bears are quite there yet, though they are trending in the right direction. So I get this line where it is. I probably would lean to the Chicago side, even though I like even though the power ratings say go the other way. They collapsed late, but their defense was impressive until the final 5 minutes of the game. Like Larry said, 3 interceptions against typically a safe quarterback who had, I believe, 5 interceptions coming into the game. So that's good stuff. They're 32nd in sack rate and third down success and red zone success in the season. A lot of bad numbers across the board, but I do expect better days ahead. It's just situationally they have not played very well this year. That should change moving forward. Minnesota, 5.5 yards per play against Denver. Run game starting to emerge, but Chicago's defense is first in yards per rush. They shut down Minnesota in the first meeting. I think the defense can create turnovers against Dobbs, and the offense with Fields can stay close against many defenses. It should be a tight game. It should settle around 3. So if you like the 3.5, definitely take it now because this game shouldn't go off higher than 3.
All right. Jared says, I'm rolling with the Maestro and RJ here. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do 16 games in less than 60 minutes. So grab your paper, grab your pencil. Here is the recap, and I let my guys take you through and tell you exactly why they're making these best bets. RJ, let's start with you.
Yeah, the Broncos minus 2.5. I think they're going to have a field day against Dorian Thompson-Robinson on the road, and that Browns offense I don't think is going to look very good. Defense also has not been great on the road either. So Browns minus 2.5. I think that line should be well north of 3. Ravens minus 3.5 should be well north of that number 2. The Chargers are not playing well. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the league. Chargers don't have a good home field advantage. Ravens should roll in that game. I also have a teaser. Lions down to minus 1.5. That line should be higher than 7.5. If you want to play the Lions, it's fine. Perfect teaser number though. So I'm going to take them down to 1.5. Going to take the Texans up to plus 7.5. They should score on any defense at this point, and they'll keep that game competitive, maybe even win the game. But we just need them to stay within a touchdown here. So I like that teaser of Lions minus 1.5 and Texans plus 7.5.
If you are new or you're not a teaser better, what RJ meant, so like when you have a half a point, that's a perfect teaser leg because some sports books will give you your money back on a push, but mine certainly does not. So having that minus 1.5 and plus 7.5, really, really smart. Also, there's no push. So it's either going to win or it's going to lose. I love that. All right, Maestro, talk to me.
Justin Fields looked great in his return from injury. The Bears defense has been trending upwards, and they held the Lions down for 56 minutes, taking the Bears. This is going to be a tight game. The 3.5 is critical. Get it over a field goal. The Colts to take care of the Buccaneers is just a bad spot for Tampa Bay. Not only is it their 4th road game in 5 weeks, but they could be missing their top linebacker and both starting cornerbacks who got hurt against the 49ers. And then finally, the Rams at Arizona. They kind of saved their season with that win over the Seahawks. Matthew Stafford had his best game of the year against the Cardinals. Kyron Williams is coming back. He had his best game of the year against the Cardinals in the first matchup. Give me the Rams to get to 5-6.
I got to tell you, looking at all those best bets, I absolutely love all of them. Follow my guys on social media. We start every single NFL week right here at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Do not forget, if you're watching us live on Wednesday, our college football mega preview at 3 p.m. Eastern time for rivalry week on the college gridiron, then NFL games Thursday, college. We've got it all covered for you. And also Thursday, one morning show. That's it. Friday, one morning show. Both days will be extended a little bit longer to get all of the games in. I love starting my week like this. So with all that being said, hopefully you were #educated, #entertained, #knowledge is power. There's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Week 12 tickets straight to the pay window. My entire crew, Lobo, RJ White, the stoic one. My man, the maestro, Larry Hartstein. Never forget about the snake, the executive producer of the brand. And I am the coach trying to keep this train on said track. I'll see you if you're watching us live in a little over an hour, live on CBS Sports HQ, getting you set for the night in sports. Until then, I'm the coach. We grind for you so we can win with you. It's truly what we're all about right here at the Early Edge. Good luck.